Welcome to the Mixorcist.
EB, are you there?
Yeah, what was that? Is that a voice in my head, or is that?
No, it's me. And you know what I decided to do this time? I'm going to crack open a beer because unlike broadcast, you can. I think you can drink on YouTube. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sorry.
They made that legal a little while ago, so I'm going to have a coffee too.
Do it.
Where did they put that thing?
I don't know. I'm having a Belgian moon, which, interesting fun fact, in the U.S., they call this blue moon. And I hope it's not because some marketing genius thought that, well, in America, they're not going to know what the word Belgian means. I don't know what they were thinking when they did that, or that Canadians won't buy it if it doesn't say Belgian.
Well,
same beer.
Could be a licensing / region, jurisdiction issue. Could be like the tale of two Budweisers.
It could be.
In Europe,
hey,
Budweiser is a different beer than Budweiser is in the U.S.
Very interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, fun fact, because I used to work for the beer store. So those of you who are not Canadian, in Canada, in Ontario, where we live, you can't buy beer for the longest time anyway, couldn't buy beer at the grocery store. There's a special store you had to go to called the beer store. And I did some work for them. I built their first ever website. And I learned by working there that they were owned partially by Molson, Sleeman, and Labatt's. So anytime you went into a beer store, all the Molson, Labatt's, and Sleeman product had to be eye level. They couldn't have, so like it was the boutique beers and the custom small craft breweries that are like down by your knees or 12 feet in the air, but eye level had to be one of those three. Stuff you wouldn't think that people actually think about, but they do. Anyway, cheers to everybody. Let's talk about horror movies. You've been watching anything lately?
I have, and I've actually gone a bit for the survival type movies, right? So I watched one called Greenland, which is an end of the world kind of movie. Very cool. I liked it a lot. What else could I say? I don't want to give anything away. End of the world.
Tough call. You know what I did? I went and watched Jaws. Just to go. You talked last time about going back to the essentials, and think about it. In 1978, there were no movies in which there's a scene where someone's being eaten alive by a giant shark for like a full minute on screen. They just didn't do that in movies back in the mid 70s. And all of a sudden Jaws comes out, and it must have shaken everything up. I probably saw it when I was like, I don't know, 4 years after it came out, maybe. But it was cool to go back to. And the best part is I did a Netflix watch party, like using that plugin for Chrome where you can sit there and watch it and sync it. So if I pause it, it pauses for you. Mm-hmm. So we all go to the bathroom at the same time, but we can all watch the movie at the same time and chat while we're watching it. So I'm thinking what we should do here on the Mixorcist is maybe have like a contest where some of you guys who have nothing better to do on a Friday or Saturday night come out and watch, like we'll pick a horror movie and watch it together as a crew, talk audio and talk horror movies.
Now that is a cool idea. I like this idea.
I like it too.
Because we don't have... we don't have the DAWs running and plugins and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
So we could do it. So in a way, like that frees us up technically that we could maybe actually stream this thing.
That's right.
You know.
Anyway, we'll look into it, but we'll make it a thing. Get some of you guys out there and meet you one-to-one and have a good time. But hey, that's, secondary business. The serious business is some new plugins. We got something new today. What is it? What do we got?
Wow. Well, we've got the second plugin from a brand new, relatively new company, Neold, who released the first plugin last year. This plugin is the Neold
Big Al.
Big Al. Big AL, I was going to say, but Big Al is probably what they meant. Number 1209. And if you remember this design team, they were behind Phil's Cascade that they did for Elysia Plugin Alliance, and then they broke off, did their own thing, which was the Neold stuff, also released under Plugin Alliance, and they had that the Telefunken style plugin, which looks a lot like this one. It's got the that kind of brownish color. I really like that one, and this one is it's incredible. It's based on a tube unit. It's one of a kind, meaning that they actually piece together all this stuff. There is no other one in existence. Right. And they modeled it, and these guys are so good at modeling.
I agree.
It's the tits. I was checking out the EQ, And let me share my screen here because I want to show you something. Before we even get started, I just wanted to show you something that's awesome about this.
While you're looking for it, I'll tell you what, if you don't know Plugin Alliance, I've been using their stuff for a long time, and they have great plugins. Their SPL twin tube model, still one of my favorite saturation and warmer plugins. For years, I did podcast work using nothing but Console N because it was super flexible. Great gates, great compressor. I don't know what the original board sounds like. I've never been near a VXS, I think was the model, but great sounding plug. And they've made so many great releases over the years. I'm a huge raving fan of these guys. This plugin, for all the sound and saturation you get, is 10 megabytes to install. That's insane. Super lightweight. And it sounds great, as you see in a couple of minutes. So I see you brought it up there, EB. What you got? Well, I know all about what you want to know all about.
All right, so what I got here, I just wanted to show you the just some graphs on the thing here.
Sure.
Right off the bat, just because we're already here, here's the drive, right? The star of the show, really, and you can see the harmonics coming in there, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, once this drive gets past 12 o'clock, you're getting into some pretty distorted tones, but you can see how more and more harmonics are getting added. And these are even and odd harmonics, unlike a lot of distortion plugins that just give you the odd ones. This gives you like 1 kilohertz, then 2, which is the even, and 3, and so forth, and all the multiples. And you see the action down at the very bottom at 0 hertz there.
Yeah, I see a little movement there.
Yeah, that's their DC offset filter.
Mm-hmm.
So, because if they have done it. If they didn't have it, you'd see a big unmoving spike here down at the bottom. But they have it, and the reason it's moving is because it's actually set pretty low. It's set low enough that you won't lose the very sub.
So maybe 5 or 10?
Oh, lower probably. Yeah, like probably 3 or something, or maybe 2, because that's when you see that action there. Once it stabilizes, it's gone. There's no DC offset at all. So that is a beautiful thing. I've only seen that, I think, maybe in a few other plugins. One of them being True Iron, where the DC filter behaves in that way. And it just shows, I think, an attention to detail there. Anyway, but not to get ahead of ourselves, let's take a look at the frequencies, which is what I really wanted to show you here. All right, so when you first open up the plugin, actually, let me line these up here. There we go. We reset everything. When you first open up the plugin, this is what you can expect, a little bit of low-end roll-off that actually goes up there. It doesn't start to level off till 100 or maybe even 200 hertz. And then you're pretty flat, and then you get into the high end, and right at 5 kilohertz is when it just starts dropping down. Yeah, we're not talking much. It's down by maybe like 2.5 dBs up at 22 kilohertz. So, but it's just a little bit of a warming effect where you're controlling your very sub rumblings a bit, and any of that really piercing top high end that you might not want. It's a general warming effect, some strength in the mids. Now let's check out this EQ, the low end. These, by the way, are back Sandal type EQs. So here's your low end. It sort of centers around 100 hertz. Here's your high end, which right now it centers around maybe 10 kilohertz. When you start to crank it up, that peak is actually raising in frequencies. Now it's like maybe around 12 or something like that. Now, these are considerable boosts. Without any much distortion, you're getting about like 12 dBs of boost. Now, let me reset the plugin there. And you get these 3 controls up here, the emphasis, bass compress, and sag. Emphasis just gives you a boost from, I'd say, about 600 hertz all the way up to the top. And it does roll off a little bit more on the bottom, right? So that's what that guy does there. The bass compress, you don't really see it on the chart, but
you jack the bass control, you might.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the distortion quite a bit. But there you go. Yeah, it does. Yeah. So if you've got a sound where you're distorting it and you're pumping up a lot of lows, that's going to really clamp down on that. And then this V is the sag, and if you know what sag is, that's the that effect that happens in tube amplifiers. When it reacts to a loud signal, it sort of sucks below for a little bit and then comes back up. It's like a delayed reaction almost. It's a cool sound. It can add a lot of life to it. So anyway, those are your kind of the technical aspects. You get a mix control here, which will enable you to blend between the dry and the distorted. And on off, here's your level output. You get a sub menu here.
Mm-hmm.
GUI size, normal, medium, or big. That's good depending on what kind of screen you have.
Mm-hmm.
And GUI quality. So you can go get a little bit more resolution out of it that way. Or you can save up a bit of space, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as audio examples, everybody's saying, why do you guys always do rock? Why do you guys always do metal? Well, what did you say? Is there any type of
other type? Yeah, man. But
we have both kinds of music.
If y'all have some stems or some mixes you want to send it. We would love to do some hip hop or some different styles, some jazz, anything. We just don't have any ready. So if you want to send us some, we'd be happy to take on some different styles, man.
Okay, so I've got a loop here, a beat, and I'm going to play it with nothing on it, and then even just engaging Big Al in its default setting, there's a slight change to the tone. Let's see if you can pick up on it. Here it is off. On. Off. On. So I'm going to leave that on now. I don't know if you heard it, but we will start to hear some differences as we start to add some drive here. Now, if you look at the peak meters, actually, as I'm distorting it more, these peaks are coming down and level. So this is kind of operating a little bit different from other saturator plugins where it tends to go up towards the limit and get louder. This actually starts to clamp down considerably. See how low it's starting to get when I really slam into it? And I'm going to let those transients back. It's getting louder. It's probably a nice blend right here. Let's make up some of that gain with that room we made off the peak level. Again, peak level is something you want to consider. It's not always about equal lifts level. It's about peak efficiency a lot of the time, right? As long as you're not screwing up your sound too much. Now, let's play with this low end here.
There it is.
Ooh. Let's restart that. Let's get some top end going on here. If you remember from the graph, this is going to be pretty scooped sound, right? And now we can take that level back down a bit. On. Off.
That's
on.
good.
Now, to be fair, that is a bit of a level jump, but let me pull that back a bit. On. Off. On. And if we like, we can mix in a bit of that original signal again. Well, we do some cool stuff. Maybe we could really crank it up a bit. Sort of depends what you like, right? Some people like to really distort it and then just add a tiny bit underneath. That's one way to go. Another way to go is just full on. Like, you can make it unrecognizable, which maybe I should do right now. Check this out.
Unrecognizable is great. There we go. Pinball noises.
So I want you to also hear what that sag control does. And I think when the distortion's exaggerated like this, you're going to really be able to hear it. No sag. Turning on the sag now. Off. On. Hear that extra life and low end in the bottom?
There's a little bit of crispiness too in maybe mid-high somewhere.
Yeah. Almost like maybe even the harmonic structure is changing slightly. Maybe it's starting to give a little bit more of the even harmonics. I'm not sure on that, but yeah, just like you said, there's a bit more sizzle and frying kind of.
That's it. Fry. A little more bacon.
Now while we're still here, let's check out that bass compress and see how much that takes out. Mm-hmm. I always mix like this. This is exactly how I like to make drums sound every time. The whole record. All right. And I'm going to turn on the bass compress now. Off. On. Let's crank up this. I wonder if this makes much difference at all when that's on.
I feel like the harder you drive the bass, the more it takes out of it.
Yeah, hear that?
Try
when
it.
That's on, and I've got the low end turned down all the way, and you hear more low end. Right?
Yeah, no, dime it. Totally.
Isn't that neat? Cool. So it definitely is. It's sort of acting like a compressor where...
Like a sidechain.
Something that's good to know, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like it puts a ceiling there, and if you're not pushing the ceiling because you've turned the bass down, it's not compressing, so there's no net effect maybe.
Yeah.
But you can definitely hear a little more bass left alone. Again, not a sidechain, but like a sidechain in behavior almost. It determines whether or not the bass is going through the detector or compressor. But definitely an audible difference. You know, see, there's so many fixed things on this. You know, we're so used to having parametric things or being able to set all the controls, attack, release, threshold, input, drive, output. Here, you get what you get. So if you like the fact that these are tuned to 100 hertz and then the top end's at 10K, if that's a good spot for you, this is going to work a treat, right? This is more control you'd normally get out of a saturation plugin. Mm-hmm. It's just a drive control, right? There's a lot more control here. Much like Phil's Cascade, much like SPL Iron, I think it was called, much like the Brainworks, I think it was called XL.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Double XL or something, yeah.
Yeah, they have a beautiful limiter called BX Limiter, and it has that same saturation modeling on it. So the one that they make in that XL plugin, there's like a crossover frequency. You can tune the different kinds of saturations at different frequencies. So this is much like that. Lots of control over the saturation, but it's not quite an EQ or a compressor on its own.
Mm.
If you like smile curves on your mixes, like on your bus, you're going to love this.
Oh, yeah. It just brings everything to life. And I've got one more very quick example, because what would life be if we didn't have a nice screaming vocal, right? So here it is. Here it is off. Let's start off.
Fucking with me, I'm the one that will be stopped!
That's a classic, if you've heard this before.
Poor guy.
Oh, he loved it.
Or girl, I shouldn't assume. Right? That could be anything. I don't know what that is.
Okay, so let's just put the default on. It'll be a subtle difference, but it will soon be less than subtle as we increase the drive.
Fucking with me, I'm the one that will be stopped!
See, listen to that
poetry.
Compared to off.
Fucking with me, I'm the one that will be stopped!
Even in default, there's a bit of difference. But let's crank the drive and let's mess this up.
Fucking with me, I'm the one that will be stopped!
Nice. Ooh.
Fucking with me, I'm the one that will be stopped!
I'm liking that. So now I want to show you the one thing we didn't look at yet is the emphasis. And I think for vocals, this emphasis is actually going to be really nice, because you could get those mids starting from 600, maybe 1K, and then everything above. So let's have the emphasis off, and then I'm going to turn it on.
Fucking with me, I'm the one that will be stopped! I'm
just going to switch it on and off. See if you can hear it come on and off.
Fucking fucking with me, I'm the one that will be stopped!
It's like it was annoying before, and now there's a little bit more annoying at 1K or something.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. It's like being defibrillated. You can only do it so many times on one human being before you're out of chances. So we should probably limit the number of times we play that clip.
I was going to pin the high end, though. We're going to do it one more time.
Do it.
I was going to do the sag and the high end, right? So
do it.
Engage the sag. Let's crank her up. Let's crank the high end. Actually, we go to the file and normalize it just to get that extra dB of distortion or whatever.
Yeah.
Here we go. Last time.
Fucking with me, I'm the one that will be stopped!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. Now it's just not the blood and guts. It's like the gristle and
that's right.
And the sizzle. Like you can smell it cooking.
Yes, you can. Big Al. Big Al's your friend.
Don't ever say that Big Al never did anything for you.
No, that's right. Big Al working the grill in the summer, man.
Yeah.
Big Al's your buddy.
That's right. So that's me, man.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, that's not good. Not good.
All right. Great job, BB. Here's me. Hey, listen, guys, I made my mouse cursor a little bit bigger for you. If anyone knows of a tool that will highlight my clicks, by all means, recommend something. I'm happy to install it. But for now, at least you can see what I'm doing, hopefully. So you know what I like to do? I like to play a mix with nothing and then see what kind of madness and mayhem we can create with just this plugin. So aside from some reverb and an EQ on the reverb return, because it was getting a little bit nostrily, I also had to put some high-pass filters on the guitars because it was impossible to mix the drums without it. But I'm using the same mix I used in last episode. Sorry about that. Let's just take a minute to tune your ears to it. Listen up with no Neold plugin on it. No Big Al. Big Al's not in the house yet. Here we go. Okay, it's there. It's a little flat, not a whole lot of activity. Could use a little bit of spice. So let's play it and let's start kicking in every instance of Neold that I've got. And let's hear what kind of difference we could potentially make. So that's with. Let's hear it without. So it's obvious that without doing a whole lot else, you could make some serious tone shaping decisions just with this plugin. You should have noticed that it added a little bit of brightness, presence, and of course a ton of punch, which we'd expect a saturator to do. So let's just zoom in on a couple of key components real quick. So we begin with the drums. You can hear a little bit of salt and pepper going on there because I got the drive set pretty heavy. Let's listen without. Ugh, who wants that? Now let's kick it in. Now, Big Al's in town, right? But I've got that mix set back pretty subdued, and I'm finding here with the mix pulled back to less, it's about 40%. It's acting like a compressor in parallel, in that it's doing some compressing, but it's not touching a lot of the original transient and vibes. So let's crank the mix all the way up to 100 as we watch here. It's about 40. Now you would have noticed that the high end adjustment that I've made and the low end adjustment, which is modest, and you know what, I'll take off, just so you can hear it one more time, I'll take off that bass compressor and have another listen at 100%, then down to 40. There's the bass. Oh, Big Al and your big round bottom. Let's move you back to 40. Okay. Without. You see? Now we're having some fun. And we'll kick. I'm going to leave the bass compressor on simply because it's going to interfere with the bass guitar itself, but I won't put on the emphasis here just because I feel like I don't want a whole lot of mid-range in my drums. The guitars are going to occupy a ton of that space, so let's leave it alone. I'm happy with this setting. This sounds good to me. I've accentuated the top a little more than usual, but it's working. Let's have a little listen to the bass, shall we? Here we go. Without. With. Now here I actually wanted 100% mix because I wanted to take advantage of this bass was a little bit weak without it. So I wanted to jam a little bit of extra low end on it. We could push that drive a little further, see what happens when we do. Say it benefits from having more drive, but it definitely benefits from having a little more push in the bottom end. And then I've just rolled off the top a little bit because it just seemed to make a tiny bit more space for the other instruments. So let's hear bass drum and bass guitar together, with and without. This is with, without. That's giving me the punch that I want without being obscene or too aggressive. Now let's talk about these guitars, because these guys are a bit of a problem. So let's have a listen here without. Let's take everything off. Mud, 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 mud. Great guitar sims, but once you put them into a mix, they want you to do something to them. So I always like to do something different with the left and right channels. And notice, not only will you notice some tonal differences, but you'll notice the stereo spread is a little more distinct and just a little more separate, and it creates a little more engagement, kind of the way I like it. I always like having left and right guitars. Let's listen without, then jam it back in. Without. Not only they're a little bit louder, which always sounds good, but with the left guitar, I decided let's use that emphasis for a little bit more of a smoother, almost like an inverse scoop, and didn't really touch the bass, although I did go for a little bit of a treat and have the high end pumped up a bit. Didn't go 100%, probably more like 75, 70. All right, so let's listen to just that guitar. With, without, just gets swallowed whole back into the abyss. Let's bring it back to life, shall we? A lot of that's the high end. Take away the high end. Without. I don't know. There's still something pretty interesting going on there. Now, what happens if we try to hurt it with some drive? I don't love that. That guitar is plenty distorted enough, so it doesn't need saturation. It needs some drive, though, a little bit of punch. And the way I had it set was pretty good. There, a little more sizzle. All right, let's listen to Mr. Right. Let's take the emphasis off just to make it fair. Without. And here I was looking for a little bit more of a scoopy-ish sound. But in the end, I decided it'd be fun to just roll off some of the top. It was getting a little bit busy in the top end there. So let's listen without and with. Just enough of a difference. So the last thing we can do is listen to this whole thing put a little on the mix bus. Oh, I forgot. I also put a little bit on the reverb. You may have a hard hard time hearing this. I'll frequently do this with reverb returns is I'll chop the bottom off and I'll chop the top off as well, leaving some action kind of in the middle a little bit. And I tried the sag control here and I liked what I got. This is a bit more subtle in the context of the mix. It's a bit harder to hear, but just listen to the reverb if you can. Without. With. Without. It's adding a little touch of liveliness that I like. It's sometimes nice to take a reverb return because they sound so digital, especially algorithmic ones, and just push it through a tube saturation or a warmer circuit just to give it a little bit more of a natural life. So I tried that and I got a good result from it. Let's play with the mix bus finally. Let's see what we have going on here today. I mean, similar to Eric's settings, just a little tiny push in the low end, a little tiny push in the top end. I'm not going to use the emphasis control. Don't want any compression here. The sag I don't care for. And we'll go with 100% of the mix just so that we can fully hear what it's trying to do. So let's listen without. Here she goes. And with. Without. You know, I honestly think my favorite part of this plugin is that high-end control. It really is adding some smooth sheen that's not offensive. I almost, before I read the manual, I thought it was a little lower than 10K because it's not as airy as a 10 or 12K shelf or peaking filter can do. But as you were demonstrating, Eric, it's got a pretty decent slope to it. So to me, it's a little bit bright, but in small amounts on a mix bus, it works great. So that's my bit. Me and Big Al had some fun today, and just one more time. Let's listen with no Al, and then let's bring Al back in the picture and just hear what a difference it makes without changing any EQ, not adding any compressors, not adding any effects whatsoever. This is without, and watch me bring him in. I don't know. Saturation is the new EQ, man. I dig it.
Yeah.
So great job, Neil. This was fun, and I can see a whole bunch of different places where I can use this. This was a great effort. As I said, where would we use this versus not, Eric? I think if you like the center frequencies of the controls, it's working for you. If you like the smile curve and you want either some minimal distortion effects, or if you just want to wreck it, it's good for any of those. So I really liked it on the drums, really loved it on the guitars, loved it on the two bus.
Your mother's in here with us, Karis. Would you like to leave a message? I'll see that she gets it.
Yeah, it was the same here. For drums, I thought it really shone, especially with just taking drums that are a little dead sounding, a little bit too mid-rangey, and just giving it a wallop on the bottom and some nice shine on the top. Now, to be fair, I didn't really experiment with, let's say, pulling the treble down and the bass down, and let's try to really mid-range focus some sounds. I didn't actually experiment with that, so I can't really say for sure what this could or could not get in terms of more MIDI sounds, because I didn't actually try to do that. But I guess because, today's still day one. And, I was impressed by the sizzle. That was my favorite part.
Well, it's like the bias. It's almost like the bias control on a tape machine is that once you delve into that territory, it really drops the volume and actually compresses quite a great deal.
Mm-hmm. See, that gives you room to turn it up, right? That gives you the peak efficiency, and then you just turn it up, make up that gain, just like you would compressor, like you were saying earlier. Mm-hmm. And
it's more present.
Yeah, and you can just sit it just that much more up front in the mix. Give it a little hair, as they say.
A little hair.
Barbecue.
That's all you want.
You don't want the hair on the barbecue. Hey, what was...
you don't.
How many Jaws movies did they make? There was Jaws 1, 2, and 3D.
I lost track. I dragged my grandfather to see that. Poor guy, he must have been 75 at the time, at some theater in Quebec somewhere when I was, I don't know, 11, oldest, that kind of thing. And then I totally lost track. If you've ever seen Jaws 3, it's enough to convince you to stop watching Jaws.
Jump in the shark is the word.
Jump in the shark. Exactly
sandwich.
Right.
Shit sandwich.
Exactly right. Shit sandwich.
Well, no, because they could actually, you could do Jaws Part 57, the cookout.
You could.
All right. Finally, it's like after the end of like these decades of being tormented by the thing, everybody just comes together and eats like big ass sandwiches of shark meat.
I'm down.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe that could be more of a live streaming event or something.
What's in this thing?
Yeah, exactly. What's it been eating?
That's right.
It tastes so sweet.
Good stuff. So stay tuned, guys. We'll figure out this watch party thing. We got to get something going there. I think that'd be fun.
You know what? Why don't you leave suggestions in the comments below? What movie would be a good one? If we get enough comments for some reasonable votes. I mean, if 2 people comment and they're choosing, like, I don't know, Robert the Haunted Doll and
you're assuming that 2 people watch this.
Well, there's that too, right? So. No, we're getting more than that, right? So.
I think there's been 3.
Yeah, at least
there's that one video where there's 3.
Some people watch because of this horror banter, and other people are like, "Fuck that." The real talk starts at 5 minutes and 27 seconds. You can just skip that whole bit, right?
Skip the whole banter, man. We should maybe leave a bookmark so you know where to go to get to the good stuff or something. But
that's a good idea.
Hey, you know, we're two dudes who've known each other for 32 plus years. We're doing what we've always done, man. We're rocking and rolling, having some fun with some plugins, and just enjoying the brotherhood and talking stuff, having a good time. And we hope it adds some value to you. We hope you enjoyed this. Leave your comments, send your mixes, send your stems. We love you guys. Thank you for watching.